up, y'all? Welcome to Fight Talk with me, Jimmy Dukes, with a special guest out from AZ, the one and only Headkick, man. What's up, brother? How are you?
Doing pretty good. I mean, we're not too far away from the event at CFC 3, so we're still kind of buzzing from it. And I'm seeing all the pictures come out, all the highlights come out. I mean, the production with CFC is amazing. Even after, like, post-event, you're just seeing all this cool content come out, and it's pretty cool to see. Like I said, it still got me buzzing.
Yeah, man, it's awesome, man. I've been barely getting to my content. I was hired just to be a corner guy, so it was cool. Just I was getting corner reactions, so I had an opportunity to see most of the fights at a different angle. But first of all, I appreciate you coming on here, and it was a pleasure meeting you in person.
Yeah, coming out to Texas is something that I've been needing to do for a while, and it just makes sense that I make my Texas debut with a fight organization like CFC. Pretty easy for us to go and make the move. Pretty cool to meet you guys as well. Everybody with the organization was really awesome, very accommodating. If I needed something, I asked, I got it. You know what I mean? So, and the people down in El Paso are just as passionate as the people out here in Arizona. So it's a perfect fit for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that you have a lot of background in covering combat sports in your area, and you coming down here, and I got to see who you were. Meeting you in person was cool, man. I know that I've been to CFC too, so CFC 3 was even doper. I mean, as a whole event, man. I mean, from from the beginning to the end, I had such a good time and seeing some really competitive fights. And I wanted to see if you had a little bit of time for us to kind of go up the card.
I got all the time in the world. I could talk about
Yeah.
CFP 3 forever.
Right. I know. And it was cool. You came down to be for a lot of you guys who don't know, Head Kick. He was announcing the fight down there with Uncle Tony and Cristobal Chavez, man. So those three guys in that I wish I could have heard that audio the whole time, man. Right? Because I was watching you guys from over here, but it looks like you guys were having a good time and you guys were really just entertained with all the different types of fights and fighters in there.
You know, it's funny because if I had one complaint about the card in general or my time in El Paso, which I mean El Paso gets a bad rap, don't get me wrong, and I don't understand where it comes from because my time there was very pleasant. It was the interesting weather. We were absolutely freezing. This was an outdoor event, so I really feel for the fighters. And you know, CFC, one of the owners, uh, Carlos Pacheco, he competed also, so
Yeah.
he knew what the fighters were dealing with. So I guess they couldn't come complain to him, right? But
Right.
that was the only knock on the whole event was just the temperature. But I'll tell you what, these fights were hot. They were keeping our temperature pretty high. So it was definitely a fun time despite the the cold.
Yeah, man. I know. I had two shirts, a long sleeve, and like a windbreaker. And I was comfortable, man. But I couldn't even imagine the guys when they were coming out. I was walking down the when they were walking out, and as they were taking off the sweater, they're like, but
A
it was
lot of
cool.
them were opting to keep their
Yeah,
shirt or sweater on until it was time to fight. Which
like
I mean,
yeah,
let them
I don't
have it.
blame
Let
them.
them have it.
Yeah, but starting from the very beginning, man, we had the first fight, Nico versus Santana Mike Cell, man. Very entertaining fight. Nico was coming off a win on the last some CFC two. He was a fan favorite here, and coming in towards some guy that I know that I've been watching, Mike Sell, and that fight was going one way and then it ended another way, right?
It did. It did. The submission, it came quick and relatively unexpected. And right after the tap, you could see, I believe it was Nico. Um, After the tap, he was just so frustrated with how the fight played out. And what I need people to understand is fighting is 95. I'm going to say 95 because I've been there, right? It's 95% mental and 5% physical. You know what I mean? So going in there with the expectation that Nico was having of himself, and then it quickly getting taken away, I think that was what led to his reaction. But I mean, he immediately exited the cage. Um, but I'm not sure if that was the only sub of the night, but
I
it
I wanna
was.
say it was. I think it was, and it happened so quick to how you were saying, and I spoke to him during the weigh-ins, and he was pumped, just to come back down. He had a great finish, the last one, so he was really like, Imma go in there and take care of business, and I got to talk to him a little bit after how you were talking about that. He was really upset with himself, and, for a lot of people to understand, these guys bust their butt, especially in the amateur ranks, man. These guys are not getting paid. They're going out of their way to really do this and pursue something. So a lot of people can say from afar, like, you quit, you got tired. Like you can say whatever you want, you know what I mean? But yes, Santana locked in that armbar. And if you've never been in an armbar, when somebody goes to cinch it and tries to rip your arm off right away, I remember Nico told me it wasn't even worth it, man. We were dry. He had it, and there was nothing I can do other than get my arm broken, and it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, definitely as an amateur, it's not something you want to do. Santana had that locked in really tight, and not only were they dry, but it was cold. So the chances of them breaking a sweat that early, pretty much non-existent. I don't think that's going to
Yeah.
happen. And I'll tell you what, Santana literally called it in the fighter meetings that we had at the weigh-ins. He said he was going to, play the stand-up game to get it into his element, get him on the ground, and look for, I believe he said, a sub round 2, but he ends up getting it in round 1. So props to him for literally
Calling the fight.
stating his game plan and it like following it to a T.
Yeah, yeah, and he's and I've seen Mike fight 3 times already. Tough guy. It's always crazy seeing him in there. He's always in bad, situations, but he pulls some off, and he did that time. And shout out to Santana. And I know we're gonna see Nico again. I know he was upset, but I know like I've never fought or anything, but I can say I know you've been around a lot of guys. After a loss, you come back even way more hungrier, right?
Well, okay, so it depends. Some people have mixed results. Being 100% honest up front, I was way more scared for my second fight than I was for my first fight
Uh-huh.
because the first fight, you don't know what to expect. If you got finished, like I did, it's way scarier because you know what can happen. And my second opponent was just, he was a badass. You know what I mean? I had no business being in there with him. So it really depends on like where you're at in your career and how your first fight went. Your first fight is literally going to set the trajectory for pretty much everything else. If you came off your first fight and it was, a knockout, you didn't take any damage, so you feel invincible, and you get finished later on, it's going to be tough to, to deal with that mentally in the moment.
Yeah.
Afterwards, you're going to be like, okay, you know what? Hey, let me see the mistakes I made. You can go back to the drawing board, et cetera, et cetera. Let me block this sneeze out real quick.
Go for it.
Okay, we blocked it out. But, so like I said, Nico's going to come back. I think he just let the emotions get the best of him. And, it is what it is. I don't think there was any disrespect. I think it was more of a self, he was mad at himself.
Yeah,
not
for
at
sure.
his opponent, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, first fight of the night to start it off too. That I think that was a good way to start off the card to a submission. Everybody was like,
Massive.
"Oh
I mean,
crap!"
a finish in the first fight that gets everybody pumped.
Yep. And then let's go into the second fight here with Acosta versus Huertas. And this was it went 3 rounds. They were going back and forth. If you could remember, I know Acosta was landing some elbows, keeping the distance, and Mikey was trying to just get in close on that range, huh?
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, Mikey was the shorter one.
Yeah.
Okay. And unfortunately, he was fighting like the shorter guy for most of the fight. But when you would see him close the distance and come forward, he was having a lot of success. When he would break through on his flurries, he was landing. He was having to throw, 2 or 3 or 4, but they were landing. But I think ultimately it was the height discrepancy and the reach disadvantage for Mikey that led to him just not being comfortable to get in the pocket only when he was being pressed or his back was up against the cage or his coaches were telling him to go. I think realistically, I talked to Mikey in the back after the fights as well. Realistically, he's probably a bantamweight, and he was fighting up a weight class or 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
And I think if I'm not mistaken, the fight was signed only on like 3 weeks' notice.
And he still showed up and went 3 rounds, right?
Absolutely. And he was getting tagged. He took some bombs, and he stayed in the fight. Even when things got tough, his coaches were telling him, "Hey, you got to come forward. You got to come forward." Or if he was ever in any trouble, he was listening and getting himself out of those situations, which is something you want to see as the coach. You definitely want to, have your fighter listen to you, get out of a crappy situation so that you don't end up going home finished. You know what I mean? So props to him for taking the fight and for going the distance against a guy that was much, much, much bigger and longer than him, for sure.
Yeah, Ishmael was. I was even jokingly saying because I mean, you saw I'm a little guy, but when he was throwing elbows, they were like jabs. Yeah,
Right?
when he was throwing elbows, they were like jabs. I was like, oh my god, this guy's range was crazy. But yeah, he was putting it on the whole time. But shout out to Mikey, man. He didn't back down. He did get beat up, and on a 3 weeks notice. I mean, he's like, I showed up at 155. I should be fighting at 135. Like, come on. You know what I mean? Like, I give him props and nothing to take away from Ishmael. He went in there,
He did his
calculated.
job. He did his thing. Absolutely. I'm not taking away from the performance because the performance was calculated.
Mm-hmm.
Taking a fight on short notice, it's not just, the guy that's stepping up. It's also the guy that was already in the fight and he's got an opponent switch. That's what a lot of people tend to, overlook or not understand. It's not just the guy that, is coming in on short notice. That guy's also taking the fight on short notice.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember who his previous opponent was, but what if he was a tall guy? What if he was a wrestler? He fought Mikey, who's stood up with him the entire time. What if he was training jiu-jitsu the whole time because his previous opponent was a jiu-jitsu black belt?
Yeah, that's true.
That's the thing that people overlook. So I think props to him for finding a game plan and sticking to it. However, I did notice that the coaches were trying to press him for a finish, and Mikey, to his credit, was throwing bombs whenever he was getting close. So
yeah, and it went all the way. Props to Mikey, and I'm sure he'll be back out there. And he moves down to 0-2, and Ishmael goes to 1-2, gets his first win in the amateurs. So shout out to them. Moving up to the next one, I know this was a quick one. Jonathan Shooter Nunez versus Clark Ginn. Was pumped. I've seen Nunez fight pretty much every single time. I've heard a lot of stuff about Clark coming down from Albuquerque. Had a great stand-up. But we got another submission in the first round there, Headkick.
Yes, we did. And Clark, I believe, is already booked for CFC 4.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Definitely a prospect to keep an eye on. But I think that squeeze in that guillotine, because I believe it was standing, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not mistaken, I believe it was standing, and I mean, Ginn had no choice but to tap. And it was after a couple heated exchanges on the feet. I mean, that was a fun fight for as long as it lasted, for sure.
Yeah, man, because I know Clark he has a standing background, and Shooter's like more of a like all-round kind of guy, but he's a strong guy. And let's accredit his grip. He's a firefighter. So once he got that front choke,
that explains everything.
Yeah, so he got that front choke, and he even said it in the interview after post. He's like, man, I remember watching Machida when John Jones did that to Machida, man. So he said he had kind of like a little thought in his head, like, oh, he was squeezing, and I was actually recording his corner, and I hear them squeeze, yeah. So it was intense. Shooter goes on to get that first round finish and moves on to go 3-0 as an amateur. Clark goes down to 2-4, but like you already said, he's already lined up for CFC 4, and I know he's gonna be chomping at the bit to get back in there, huh?
We'll see, and that's the great thing about. Unfortunately, his position, his record drops to 2-4, but he also took virtually no damage. Yeah. I mean, yes, the fight was exciting and both guys were hitting each other, but there was virtually no damage taken. He was choked out pretty quickly in the first round. So with no damage mounted, you're able to just jump right onto another card. And he does so at CFC 4. So I'm very excited to see if he can make some of those adjustments. Him being the taller guy, should have been able to fight at range, but he wanted a firefight. And, should have just took advantage, wrapped up that guillotine. And, I mean, if I remember correctly, too, like, the grip was strong, and Ginn was trying to get away. So it was going on for quite a bit, but he held on to it and ultimately got the tap, right?
Yeah. I was going to say, you're going to get in a firefight with a firefighter. But yeah, man, he had that tight, and also credit to Ginn, man. It's just kind of one of those things is like, it's amateurs. You're trying your best to get out of there. You're not sweaty. It's cold. You're locked in. You're just gonna tap and we'll call it a night. And this is amateurs and we're gonna move on to the next one, right?
Well, you want to get in as many fights as you can, as quickly as you can. Something Anthony Burchak, who was one of our co-commentators at CFC3, who, by the way, is going to join me again over at CFC4,
Hey,
because boss told us we got the job. So we're
let's
absolutely
go.
ecstatic for that.
Congratulations to you guys, man. Happy for you guys,
Appreciate
man.
that. But he said something in the fighter interviews that like hit me so dramatically. He said, look, when are you thinking about going pro? He was asking all the fighters, when are you thinking about going pro? Especially the guys that were in the championship realm, right? So you had Calvin, you had Sablehouse, you had Robles, and then you had Salcido.
Yeah.
Those were the four that he had asked, and then he asked Santiago and Cerna.
Yeah.
He asked those guys, when are they talking? When are they thinking about going pro? Because typically you get a couple fights, you get your title, you maybe defend once or twice, and then you go pro. But what he had said, and I know this is a little off topic, but it resonated with me really hard. CTE does not discriminate, and you don't get paid as an amateur. I mean, ticket sales, of course, merch. If you're able to get sponsors as an amateur, you know what I mean? But you're not getting paid by no organization.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So CTE doesn't discriminate, and you're not getting paid. Why are you doing this for free longer?
Yeah.
So I was like, damn.
That is a good. And that's another thing too. Is like we don't look at it that way. Like me, like I mean, I just train jujitsu, but yeah, you're right. Absolutely. If you guys are already going in there to bust your butt, and you feel like you can make this as a living for X amount of time, and that's what you're passionate and what you're striving for, then yeah, fighting a bunch of amateur fights and going 8-2 or 8-4, you might as well go 5-2, and then go to a pro, and then at least you're getting paid, right?
Yeah. Well, like I said, there are steps. I think getting a title as an amateur before you go pro is something that's going to set you apart from the other guys that are just going pro. Maybe they went like 5-3 without a title, and they're like, okay, I'm tired of fighting for free.
Yeah.
Or they feel that their skill set is ready. I think that amateur title situation is where you kind of start thinking about, okay, instead of just doing this as a hobby or doing this full time, I want to do it full time and get paid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So right.
I think that's why he asked a lot of the guys that were fighting for the titles. You know what I mean? Because it makes a lot of sense. Everybody else is kind of just chomping at the bit or scratching at the surface to break through to that title area in the amateur ranks. So I felt the question was spot on, but then the reasoning behind it was like, wow, I never thought about it that way.
And that's kind of good that that I'm glad you brought that up. And I always kind of talk to fighters about the separate things that, I mean, it's good to have those kind of people in your corner. They're kind of looking out for you, or just kind of giving you some different aspect of something that you might not be thinking of. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these guys might be younger, and they might not be, somebody who's more a veteran and kind of been around the sport can give you an honest opinion, and you can take it into consideration. That doesn't mean you have to. It's stone or anything, you know what I mean? But having those kind of type of people around you and kind of like, hey, think about this, think about that is kind of good for sure.
All right, what do we have next on the card?
Yeah, so let's moving up. Yeah, good little side thing. I love those kind of conversations. But yeah, moving up. This was another one. First round, towards the end of the first round, Adrian Munoz, Matthew Lee, crazy. Yanni was talking trash throughout the time. He put out a video. He said it was an MMA SMR. And yeah, man, it was a good fight until that very end, right?
It was actually a harder fight for Munoz. He was having a hard time gauging that distance. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how the fight went. It all matters on how the fight ends.
Yep.
And Lee put on a good performance up until then, right? Mm-hmm. Munoz has devastating, life-changing power at 135 pounds. Okay, and it's proven already. He's done it before. He's got a 7-second finish. Okay, by knockout, not by submission, by knockout, and it was cold. And we kind of had the same situation just here at the end of the first round, where all it takes is one from Yanni, and you could wake up looking at the lights. It was an incredible performance, especially coming off of his last fight, which I believe was against Santi. So to come back from that and then get a knockout like that, I mean, that puts him right back in prime position.
Yeah, man, and that's one thing. I'm glad you said that. A lot of people don't understand. Like, it's weird to see somebody and they just have that God-given power somehow. They just you might take 20, but his one will end your night.
It's an interesting, I don't even want to call it like a trait or a characteristic because it's God given.
Yeah,
I mean, you're either born with power or you're not.
yeah,
And Yanni was born with it. He's
yeah.
absolutely born with it. And when Carlos and the guys came down for their seminar here over at 10th Planet Tucson, over at Toro Tech, Anthony Burchak's gym,
Yeah.
I got to move around with the guys. And Yanni and the guys from Jay Pages, they actually drove down from Phoenix to do the seminar, which they're getting one. Carlos and the guys are going to go do a seminar over at Jay Pages. So they won't have to drive. I'll make the drive that time.
Right.
But I got to move around with the guys. And, dude, even in sparring, like, he's not throwing anything with a lot of sting on it. But you're like,
Come on,
I'm
man.
sorry. Hold on, man. And he's a little guy.
Yeah.
He is not a big guy. Obviously, a 35er. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Doesn't have a problem making 35.
Yeah.
You know? So, but just to have that, and like, seriously, when we were sparring, we weren't going super hard. I was already super gassed, so I wasn't letting shit.
Yeah.
You know? But I mean, he hit me with one of his right hands, and I'm like, dude, you didn't even hit me hard, and I got to sit down. You know
Right.
what I mean? So there are guys out there that just got it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And he's one of them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, very impressive. I know he was really wanting to go in there and make a statement after his last fight, and he went in and did that, and shout out to Lee. Did his best throughout the round, and unfortunately at the end of the round, who could have known what would have happened in the second round or whatever, but ended in the first round, another TKO for Yanni, and he moves on to go 2-3 in his amateur career, man. So moving up to the
And I
next one.
believe there was only like 1 second left in the first round.
Yeah, and it was crazy
That's
because
crazy.
it happened so fast too. And then Matthew was laid out for a little bit, and thank God he was all right. Fighter safety. I always say this because I've been in the community more and I follow sports. Like when you see somebody laid out, it's scary to me. I don't ever really cheer anymore when I see knockouts because I know how hard these guys work. So as long as they're okay a little bit after, it's scary to see kind of because he was really like not moving. It was crazy. Yeah, but he was all right. We move on. TKO. Shout out to Yanni. Moves on to go to 2-3. And moving on to the next one, another TKO here, head kick. Paul Dakota versus Devin. And that was a little bit back and forth too, right?
Yeah, well, Dakota definitely was the bigger guy out there, using his length and his reach, and his confidence. I mean, his confidence was something I noticed right away from the fighter interviews. I mean, I know fighters, they have to come in confident, but when somebody's confidence is just a step up, you know what I mean? And it's like, not only the confidence, but he's got the confidence of, a big guy, because he used to be a big guy. Dakota used to, I believe, weigh like 300 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Right?
He has a big frame too. I've talked to him. I've seen him fight. Yeah, 3 times. Yeah, and he's like a lanky dude in that range. I mean, every time I've seen him fight, he trains out with Carlos out at Elite. So yeah, their stand-up game is really good. And to have those kind of animals in your gym and you're getting beat up as a 21-year-old and going out there and be able to show your skill set is very impressive.
Well, not only that, but when you're training with your entire, like, not entire team, right? Because not all of EKA fought on the card, but a lot of the guys did fight on the card. I believe there was like 5 or 6 guys on the card from EKA, if not more. I mean, I don't have my notes in front of me of where everybody was training at, but when you have training partners that are fighting on the same card, let me just give you this one, for instance. June 21st over at Apex in Phoenix, my team has already, I believe, 7 potential fighters on the card. 7. You know what I mean? So 7 of us are going to be training like dogs for that card. So that means everybody else that's on that card has that in their back pocket. They're cutting weight with somebody. So usually when you're cutting weight and you're the only guy on the card, like somebody has to like, fuck, I guess I'll do some sauna work with you today. Like,
Yeah.
I guess, no, that guy has to lose as much weight as I got to lose. So we're going to
Mhm.
do this sauna together. We're going to go through this whole camp together, and having that, you know, that same level of competition throughout your entire camp where you guys are just, trying to one up each other. I mean, it just makes you better. So
Yeah.
having that through his entire camp definitely showed through this fight. And I think it's what kind of added to that confidence, probably what stepped it up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, man. And that first round was a lot back and forth, and then toward that second round, he was taking over and finished it in that a TKO, if I'm not mistaken, on the far side of the cage. Just refs jumped in, and man, he looked so good. I was happy for him. I got to see his first fight, then the second and third for our other organization. So I was very happy for him because the way he carries himself, I just forget how young he is, and just the way he was talking and just, having all those right type of people, how you were saying, around you that are training at the same time and pushing for that kind of thing is definitely kind of a cheat code, in my opinion, to be around
Oh,
surrounded.
100% a
Yeah,
cheat code
for
because you're
sure.
watching your teammates like Kobo. Kobo's a pro. So he's
Yeah.
doing interviews and he's doing this recovery and he's doing this and he's doing that. And you're seeing that as an amateur and you're like,
This is
okay. You're
that's
you're
how I
you're
got
kind of
into it.
getting the blueprints
Yep.
for how to do the fight camp the correct way, as opposed to when I was an amateur, there was no blueprints.
Yeah.
Unless you were training at a high level gym, you
Uh-huh.
were on your own.
Yeah, man. But yeah, shout out to Paul, man. Went out there and got it done in the second round, TKO. And
Dakota, not Descuto, like
yeah,
Burchak.
yeah, that's
You're
good.
trying to read it
Hey,
phonetic and
yeah,
yeah.
I was when I first met him too, and I was like, "How do?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, I get that all the time. I
Yeah.
got you."
He made it simple for us. He said Dakota. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So
So perfect. Shout out to Paul Dakota finishing at TKO, man, and I'm sure we'll see him again. Maybe in the next one. We
absolutely.
don't know. We'll see. But moving up to the sixth fight of the night, man. This is when we start getting into these title fights, man. Calvin Dunning versus Dominic Salcedo. Very good fight back and forth for a little bit, but man, Calvin was a storm.
Now let me tell you something about both these guys. Okay. Salcido, I believe, is either a like a long time purple or brown belt.
Mhm.
Okay. So his jujitsu is phenomenal. I've seen it firsthand where he looked like he was on the brink of getting finished and then he armbarred the dude. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Quickly in the first round, seconds in. Like I thought the fight was over the other way, and nope, Saucedo had him wrapped up in an armbar. So his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. Calvin Dunning is an excellent wrestler. Okay, excellent wrestler for his size, his frame. Any dude his size is going to have a lot of problems, right?
he is a thick dude.
He's a big little guy. He is a big
He is
little guy.
thick. I was like, God, we're like the same size, but he was like two times bigger than me somehow,
So
weighing less.
this fight came down to you had two guys that are really good on the ground, so it played out almost solely on the feet. I
Yeah,
think Calvin definitely didn't want to test the jiu-jitsu of Salcido, and I think Salcido didn't want to end up laying on his back for
yeah,
5 rounds. So it started on the feet and it ended on the feet, which is insane to see how far these guys both have come. You
yeah,
know, being from grappling backgrounds, coming and going toe to toe, and then Calvin coming out with the flying knee and the ground and pound follow up. I mean, he looked like a complete fighter out there. Watching his previous fights to this title defense, I mean, wow.
yeah.
Coming from a jiu-jitsu gym, no less.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was amazing, and like I said, that was the first time I've seen Calvin. He got on my radar once the card started coming out, and I kind of like to look people up on Instagram and kind of get to know what's going on, especially with guys that have a buzz around him. Obviously, he was already a champ. I already spoke to Carlos about him, and he was like, "Yeah, man, he was hurt on the second one, and we wanted to get him out here for the third one." And I've known Dom ever since a teenager, man. Me and him started our training together at a UFC gym, and he just kept going, and he got really good at jujitsu. Then he was working on his boxing, and then I saw him train fighting amateurs, and he had an up and down records, but he was really resilient, and he was on a win streak. That's why he got the title shot, and that made sense. When I was talking to Carlos, he's like, "Yeah, this fight makes sense." But man, Calvin just seemed just on another level. He had that gas pedal the whole time, and finished it in that round, man. And Shout out to
Well,
Calvin for keeping that belt.
there was a few times in that fight where the ref was asking more from Salcido right away on it. And
Yeah.
there was, somebody was sitting next to me on my right. I'm not paying attention to them, but I can hear them. And so I had to educate them a little bit, because they're saying, stop the fight, stop the fight. I'm like, no, he's listening to the ref. The ref is asking for him to show him something, and he's
Uh-huh.
moving. He's changing his position. He's defending intelligently. Salcido did everything up until the end perfectly the way he was being asked to by the official.
Yep.
So Salcido, that tells me that in there, he's of the right mind.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing. He's listening. He's keeping himself in the fight.
Mhm.
Okay. So, like, again, somebody was asking for me to, I don't know who it was. It could have been a photographer. It could have been somebody in the crowd snuck in through, or I don't know who it was. But I
Yeah.
was like, and then they said, oh, you know what? You're right. Yeah, I know, because it's my job.
Yeah.
Right. So he did everything the way he was supposed to up until Dunning got the finish. And I really do think that beautiful, beautiful flying knee was basically the beginning of the end.
Yeah, that was rough to see that, and that's another thing too. Just like you, Headkick, you get to know these guys, and me watching that, I was just like, damn, I was, but not to take it away from Calvin, man. He even told me the day before, he's like, TKO, man, TKO. I was like, yeah, let's see it, man. I mean, I'm just
Right.
excited. I love the confidence and the way he carried himself. He's not being an a-hole or anything, but he was really confident that he was going to get it done. And shout out to Calvin, and shout out to Dom, man. Stayed in there as long as he could, and when the fight was done, he is intelligent defending himself to a certain extent, and the fight had to be called.
Well, and it was like just a really, really, really great fight for two guys that are typically, fighting on the ground. They got so many rounds of good stand up, competition stand up, which is something that both of them are going to definitely grow from.
Yeah, man. And like I said, these are amateur guys that, they're on the tipping point, how you were saying earlier about that pro and that teetering. And, they've had a lot of combat experience, and it's gone their way and not gone their way. So, man, it was great to see that. Shout out to CFC for putting on that flyweight title, man. Yeah, so finishing that Dunning fight in Dom, we're moving up to the next one, another title shot. I know when this one was set up, I was like, Santi versus Rudy. Santi's been taking CFC's money with the bonuses, man. I got to meet him at CFC 2. He was walking around. I just interviewed him. He didn't know who I was. I didn't know who he was. He goes out there, gets a knockout, and I was like, whoa. And then Rudy fought on that card too, and I didn't know it was a title eliminator, and we had the title shot for both of them at this 135, man. What do you think of this fight?
Well, first of all, it got fight of the night for a reason. This fight was absolutely a dogfight, back and forth. Both guys not willing to give an inch, trying to take an inch. You know what I mean? Absolutely back and forth. To where by the time we got to the judges' scorecards, I don't know who won. I really couldn't tell you. I wasn't scoring the fight. I was commentating. So for me, that's a beautiful part of my job is I don't have to score it, right?
Yes. I love that you say that.
Well, it's not my job to score it. You know what I mean? You can have who you think won the fight, but this fight was so close. I mean, if they would have went Serna, okay.
Yeah.
But they ended up going Santi, and I really think it came down to that fifth and final round. I felt that Rudy came on very strong with those first two rounds, getting some really solid takedowns, a lot of top control, a lot of ground and pound. Credit to Santi for not, gassing. I mean, they went 5 hard rounds, okay? And he picked up the third and the fourth. And like I said, it came down to that fifth and final round. And like I said, so close, it really could have gone either way. I have to go back and watch the event. I like to give myself a little bit of distance from the event, because if not, then I'm stuck on it for a while.
Yeah.
So we'll probably be watching that. Let's see, we're 2 weeks removed, so we'll probably be watching that this weekend. And then I can give you my honest opinion of who I think won the fight. But the judges gave it to Santi, but we all won because it was a really, really, really great fight between two strong 35ers.
Yeah, man. I was recording the corner for Santi, and his coach Freddie was yelling at his face, man. It was so intense, and it was perfect. It was such a good fight. I've known Rudy because he trains at EKA, so I don't personally know him, but I've had conversations with him, seen him around. Super professional. and Santi as well. One thing that I saw, and I'm not sure if you had moments, there was a lot of respect between them two in the back, a lot of respect. You know, they both know they were going to try to take each other's heads off, but it was nothing personal. And for me as a sportsman, and like, I just love seeing that because it's nothing against that other person across the cage from you, but they're both trying to do what they got to do. And that fight, as much as I get to see it, and I like the way you say that because I started commentating and I kind of let people know, like, I'm not here to judge, I'm here to commentate the fight. From what I saw, yeah, Rudy was putting it on him, but Santi kept trying to get up, and they were both working. So it was a dogfight. How you said it did go 5 rounds, and it could have gone either way. I mean, from what I saw, I'm like, oh shit, it is a split. I don't know which way he's gonna go.
For sure. And like I said, the judges, at least what it looked like from the night, they were super not necessary for a lot of them, right? But it seemed like they were pretty on par. But a lot of the decisions, they were pretty clear cut. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? You had guys that were controlling entire fights. You had guys that were, being dominating. This was one of those fights where it truly was like a holy shit, who won that fight? You know what I mean? So going back and watching the tape will be interesting. Knowing that fight was so close, calling it, I'm like, man, I'm just looking at Cristobal and Anthony, like, man, I don't know which way is this gonna go. And obviously, I believe is Santi from New Mexico?
Yeah, he's from Albuquerque, fighting
Okay,
out of
so
Sandoval Fight
and
System.
Rudy, he was the hometown guy.
Yeah, from
So
EKA. Yep.
and that just tells you how good the judges are in El Paso. Because a lot of times what you'll hear is you've got like the
The
hometown privilege.
hometown. Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
hometown
yeah.
privilege. Personally, I don't believe in that shit. I think judges are going to just score the fight the way that they see it. And this fight was so damn close. They ended up going with the Albuquerque guy. And this kid coming in with a bunch of knockouts goes the distance and ends up winning the later rounds. According to the scorecards, ends up winning the later rounds. Like I had him 3 and 4 for sure. I had 1 and 2 for Rudy. So going in the 5th round, it was like, damn. And you got one corner screaming, the other corner screaming. I mean, they were right next to us, the EKA corner. So, I mean, and it was so loud, and both guys were just trying so hard to get the edge in that 5th round. It was so exciting. That's why I got fight of the night, not just because of the 5th round. The whole fight was like that. But, I mean, that's the final push, is that 5th and final round. And it was just an awesome fight, definitely worthy of fight of the night. And I can't wait to go back and watch it. But Santi ends up walking away with the belt.
Yeah, man, I love well said everything you said. In my opinion, I felt like Rudy's game plan to go in there and neutralize that power that Santi has. Obviously, 2 knockouts in a row. He's like, nope, let's make this kid work. And Rudy was putting it on him. I felt like Santi could have gassed out and he didn't. I'm glad that you say that as well, because that kind of just shows the test of their training. And it's a battle of attrition. A lot of people don't understand that you can go in there and be a knockout artist, and after the second round, you're done and you can't no longer fight because you're tired and you're going to lose against to a guy who can weather the storm. They were both weathering the storms. They were both could have been like, I'm getting taken down. I'm not going to get up. Rudy was holding him down, beating him up. Santi was trying to get up, beating him up. So it was a back and forth. And I think that's a fair assessment. How you said once it went in the 5th round, I was looking at people like, oh shit, I don't know who. I thought it was 2-2. Like I said, I'm not judging. I thought it was 2-2, but I didn't like. I'm not judging like the fight. I wasn't watching it. I was watching it through my camera and off to the side. But yeah, fight of the night. Shout out to both of them. They showed that they've been in there a little bit. They both had some. They have decent records. Rudy goes down to 3-1, and Santi to 4-2. But man, they just the amount of this respect for each other they had. They go in there, they beat the crap out of each other. They're in the back shaking hands and congratulating each other on a good fight, man. And that's the kind of stuff that a lot of people don't understand, man. Like that, seeing that, and everybody wins.
For sure, for sure. Especially us as fans, because it was a great fight.
Yeah, man. So yeah, shout out to Santi from Albuquerque, gets the job done, and he gets another bonus. So shout out to Santi, man. And Rudy is a killer too, man. A lot of people don't know Rudy's a quiet guy. Just he is an animal too. So I'm sure when he comes back, he's gonna go full bore as well. And I'm sure we'll see him in another CFC fight, if not in another promotion at sometime soon. But yeah, title fight for 135. Shout out to Santi, takes the belt to Albuquerque, and I'm sure we'll see him trying to defend that title sometime soon. Maybe for CFC 4, we don't know, but we'll see. And then we're moving up to the next one. Another CFC crowning of champions. 145er. I know you know Matt. I know Jeremy. What a dogfight.
Well, I happen to know both guys. I know Matt a little bit better. He's been, I mean, from Arizona. You know what I mean? So I've called plenty of his fights through multiple organizations. So very familiar with Sable House. Jeremy, on the other hand, was coming off of an absolute beautiful performance over at Rough 61, I believe, here in Phoenix. It was a beautiful, beautiful display of striking, going up against one of the guys in the featherweight division that was just coming off of a title loss in a decision, I believe. So he went all rounds with the champ, and he goes all rounds with Jeremy, but Jeremy wasn't just beating him, he was styling on him. So I was super intrigued when this matchup was announced. I mean, I know it was announced before, like early, like January or something like that. It was crazy how early this fight was announced. And both guys maintained health. They both had fights before this fight. You know what I mean? Both guys won. Both guys really didn't take any damage. You know, Sable House picked up a title. Robles picked up a really, really significant win in the featherweight division. And then they just meet each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, Robles has power. You could definitely tell he's got power. Sable House ate everything, and being the guy that's got titles in Muay Thai, I was thinking this fight would play out on the feet, to be honest with you. But it looked like Sable House had some plans, and wanted to get this fight to the ground and take advantage of what he thought was a ground advantage, and gets the win via decision in a pretty badass fight at featherweight. I gotta say.
Yeah, man, it was back and forth, and like I've known Jeremy because he trains here in El Paso, and he's a killer. You know what I mean? He has a great ground game too. But I don't know if it was you that was interviewing after, but he's like, yeah, it's part of MMA. A lot of people might not like it. Everybody wants to see stand and bang, rock 'em, sock 'em, but it's part of the game. If you feel like there's something or a hole you could take advantage, or you got to try to still win the fight. It doesn't matter. You still got to try to win the fight. If mixing it up causes confusion for the other person and gets you points, and you're on top, then why not? Obviously.
Well, and I think the game plan probably threw Robles off. I'll be honest with you. I know that Sable House was coming off of a submission victory, but like I said, you go back, you watch his fight with Dana L. I mean, he's a striker. He's a stand-up guy. He doesn't generally take fights to the ground. Training over at Southside Combat Academy in Flagstaff, a really, really solid gym all around for MMA, but they've been really sharpening that ground game of Sable House, and it really shined through in this fight. Not only that, but the chin as well, because Robles was hitting him with some bombs, okay? And I thought this fight was in a lot of trouble because Sable House would get hit, and then he'd initiate the takedown. And I was thinking that it was more of a, I'm in trouble. I need to get this fight to the ground so that I can recollect myself. No, that was the game plan all along, was to mix things up. See, I had no idea. He was holding that tight to the chest.
Yeah.
So he even had me like, yeah. No, that was a game plan the entire time. They just failed to let me in on it.
Right.
But both guys, super impressive. I don't think Robles is going anywhere.
Oh, no, for sure.
I think both guys could turn pro right now. Robles is going to learn a lot from this. I mean, I believe coming in undefeated
Yes, sir.
at 3-0.
Yes, correct.
And training out of Warriors Lair
Yes, sir.
under Lamar Harris,
Yes, sir.
who's a stud in his own right. You know what I mean? So he's coming from a good gym. Sable House has just been making the rounds in all these promotions, and you've just seen him evolve. You know what I mean? Going from a striker to a complete mixed martial artist. And I think like a couple weeks later, he was doing some like wrestling thing. So that kid is staying like crazy at it.
Yeah. And I think that's the best part, like for us, that, I say it all the time, like I'm a nerd when it comes to MMA. Like MMA is like my NFL. And now that I've been more paying attention to the like the low, like my area, instead of like big promotions, I get to see guys evolve how you're saying. Like, so I've seen Jeremy evolve, I've seen other guys evolve. So it's cool because it's like, holy shit, this guy's all putting it together. And by outright, how you're saying Jeremy is an animal as well, and he'll continue his career as well. But how are you saying how Matt, out of a stand-up fighter, goes out there and starts mixing in the wrestling and the jujitsu and makes it a difference to win a title down here at CFC 3.
I really do feel that that was the difference. Him mixing things up, you know, changing the dynamic of the fight completely.
Yeah.
I don't think it was something that Jeremy was thinking was going to happen. I really do feel that both guys, with their striking backgrounds, were, you know, Jeremy was thinking that it was going to be a stand-up war, which I wouldn't have minded that either. However, that tells me that Sable House is, you know, refining his game in a new way, because this is all new to him. His takedowns were not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his takedowns were not perfect. They weren't. A lot of them were done with just a lot of, you know, grit and just sheer strength. You know what I mean? But either way, he's honing those skills and he's elevating himself, and that's what you want to see in a champion. You want to see a champion that just, you know, not only is the belt, you know, good enough, but it's, you know, I want to go for that next belt. And in my next fight, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And, you know, they make these plans and then they execute them. I mean, he had the game plan and he executed against a guy, like I said, styled. He came into enemy territory in his last fight before he fought Sable House. And he styled on one of Arizona's best 45ers. Okay? So I'm really high on this kid. Even after this fight, I can't wait to see him again.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I
for
mean?
sure. Yeah, for sure. That, and then shout out to Warriors Lair and them down there, man, because they work everything. And I know Jeremy is a stud and he's probably one of the best guys around every time he's in a training room. But to have that, like, oh damn, like this guy took me to 5 rounds. I thought I was gonna go in there and piece him up like I did this guy 3-4 weeks ago. But you know, that kind of shows the evolve of each fighter as well, because obviously we're not gonna see Jeremy uh let that happen again. Hopefully, I mean, I just, the way he carries himself and the way he pushes this career, I just see that it's only going to make him better. Uh, Obviously, this is just amateur, you know, and we're going to see these guys pros. Imagine if they fight again. I mean, who knows, you know what I mean? But that's the best part about this sport. And, you know, and hats out to both of them, man. Matt came down here, got the job done. He said, "Hey, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna go pro. I got another fight." You know what I mean? So you know, that goes back to what you were saying about his record. He's 4-1 right now, and maybe, you know, going up to a pro makes sense. Maybe just defending one of the belts that he has makes sense. So, you know, we'll see, man. I'm excited to see both of them back out there. And you know, shout out to Matt, got it done. 5-round war down at CFC 3, man. So yeah, awesome fight, and that ends the actually
Amateur.
amateur fight.
Yep.
And now we go into 3 pro fights, which happened so fast. I
For
mean,
real.
that
For
was
real. These fights went quick. And I believe there was 4. I believe there was 4
oh,
pro fights, because there was
you all right.
the 80s, the 55s, Pacheco's fight, which I believe was at 50, and then the main event at flyweight. So there was 4 pros.
Yep. So now I'm looking at it. So good call out on that, man. So the next one was going up. We got John fighting out of, I think he's out of Phoenix now, versus Carlos. And this was, I think, initially was an amateur fight, and it turned to a pro fight, from my understanding, at 135.
Yep.
And right after the intermission, it was crazy because all these other fights that were TKOs and finishing, and then they took a intermission, and then we went into the pros, and it just, the pro fights got done in the next 30 minutes. It was so crazy. But yeah, John goes out there for his pro debut versus Carlos and gets it done in the second round. Very impressed with John.
Well, one thing, like you said in the introduction to this fight, was Calderon took this fight as an amateur. And his opponent, I believe, fought in Mexico, and it was a professional bout. So it went from an amateur bout to a professional bout overnight. And for Calderon, he was just like, look, I mean, I was already preparing for this guy. It's the same opponent. So I guess I'm just a pro now. And you know what? He went out there and he fought like one. He was in a little bit of trouble there in the first round and a little bit in the second round. I think his opponent was trying to utilize his size because I believe there was some issues with weight.
Mhm.
But Calderon, he powered through, and I believe he got the TKO finish from the back mount. Correct?
Yep. Yeah, in second
Okay.
round too, and I've known John on and off. Like I've trained with him, and he's
What a
been
sweet
fighting for
kid.
a while. Yeah, he's been fighting forever. So I remember when I was talking to him like in November, he was like, "Yeah, man, I think I just want to get back in there and things like that." And then it worked out. Everything lined up to go out there. Obviously, he didn't think he was going to go pro, but I mean, obviously, it worked out for him, And then shout out to Carlos came up and said, "Hey, man, I'm pro. I'm fighting pro." And then John's like, "All right, well, let's do it." I mean, that's the things that a lot of people don't appreciate because John could easily said, "Hey, man, like this isn't. I'm coming back from a layoff. I want an
Yeah,
amateur fight."
5 years.
Yeah. So the fact that he says, let's get it. You know what I mean? That just takes another level of athlete. A lot of people don't understand that kind of thing because he could easily said, no, let's do an amateur and things could have got all whatever. But the fight went on. He got it done. He came down here, El Paso return in front of a lot of friends and family and got that debut win.
Yeah, super impressive because all the everything that comes with your professional debut, like it's a lot of mental stuff, right? So actually taking the fight in the way that he did, he got to like kind of go around all that. Like he didn't have to worry about oh, this is a professional bout now, because I'm not sure when he found out, but I know it wasn't right when the fight was booked because it was promoted as an amateur fight to begin
Yeah.
with. But still, just a gangster coming in and saying, okay, I guess we're pros. I guess we're pros. And then the way he fought after that long of a layoff to look that calm, cool, and collected, and then go out there, even when he was in trouble, he wasn't worried.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He looked the part. And that to me was super impressive because before weigh-ins, I had no idea that this fight was professional. And he told me that, hey, it's a professional fight now. And I'm like, wow, how do you feel? He's like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's the same guy, so we're good. The rounds are just longer.
Yeah.
Like, what? That doesn't worry you? That doesn't bother you? Like
Just
3 to 5 minutes in
another
fighting,
level, another
dude, it's
level
a
of
world of
training.
difference.
Yeah, man, and just another level of the mindset mentality to go in there. And like I said, maybe like not having so much time to think about being a pro debut and maybe it just being turned around so fast. Maybe like I mean, mentally, I don't know where he was. Obviously, he was in a good space. He went in there. I actually got to catch. I was in the back, just taking a break, and I was kind of just shooting some B-roll stuff, and he was warming up,
Sure.
and it just happened to work out to where I was there. He was hitting the pads. John, it's your turn. Base change, started walking. I actually got to walk alongside with him, recording, walked all the way out there, went to his corner. I was recording the corner. He got it done. It was crazy. I can't wait to edit that video. But yeah, it was awesome to see that because I was like, I saw him hitting pads, walking out there, and then 7 minutes later, getting it done in a TKO in the second round.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to see. And that I believe led Jay Pages to go 3-0 out in Texas, which is super impressive. And all of them were finishes, all of them knockouts.
Yeah.
So again, the little jiu-jitsu school out of Phoenix, Arizona, making waves on the feet.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah. Yanning, Dunning, and Calderon. Damn. Yeah, man. So shout out to John making his debut, getting that win in the second round
For sure.
at 135, man. But that moves up to the next pro fight. We had Izzy Morello. And this was, from my understanding, this was a
Short
last
notice for Murillo.
short notice Moreno and Steven out of Zen. And man, that was another quick one. I remember spoke lightly a little bit with Izzy. I've never seen him before, and I had jokingly was talking to him, and I think he's good friends with Huertas, and he's like, I got another fight, man. I just took this short notice, and he's like, I'm gonna go out there and get it done, and boy, did he.
Yeah. So the fight literally happened right in front of the commentary booth. Okay. And this is exactly what happened. Murillo picked him up, slammed him. I mean, slammed him. He was out on the slam. Okay. And then Murillo said, bah, woke him up, bah, put him back to sleep. So those 2 strikes right there could have called the fight. He was able to get in 1 or 2 more because he was throwing them real quick, but it happened right in front of us. It looked like it was in slow motion from the takedown, not from the slam. It was insane watching it in real time because it did not feel like real time. I mean, you're just watching it happen and you're like, boom, okay, oh, he's out. Hammer fist number 1. Oh, okay, he's awake. Hammer fist number 2. Oh, he's back out. It felt like that as we were watching it. So and Stevie, he did take a minute to get up, but he was able to, collect himself, get back to his feet, and walk out of the cage, on his own 2 feet, which is something we definitely like to see. And then Murillo was actually telling me in the back after the card was over, he apologized for doing the whole
Yeah, I mean, you get caught up. You get caught up in the. I mean, a lot of like he
yeah.
literally went across the state, the ring, picked him up, put him down, couple shots, and won the fight. So I mean, the feeling of just taking a short notice fight, coming into enemy territory, and Steve is a hometown favorite. You know what I mean? To go out there and just the emotions, and class act to him to be like, that was a bad look. My
Well,
bad.
and this was actually like his 3rd or 4th fight. All his fights before that had been falling through to the point where I believe at the last CFC card, his opponent, he was in the cage and his opponent was in the back, passed out.
Yes,
You
I
know
was
what I mean?
actually there. Yeah, because it was actually one of Tony's guys, and
Yeah.
Steve didn't even get to, and Steve was coming off from a long layoff too, was trying to get
Yep.
back in there, and that fell through. And then coming out here and not going his way, it just. But shout out to Izzy, man. He went out there, executed a great game plan. Yeah, man.
The
Just
way I tell
proud.
everybody is that right after you win, you got about 10, maybe 15 seconds to say or do whatever the fuck you want. But then after that, it's handshakes and, hey, congratulations, or hey, thank you for the fight. You got about 10 or 15 seconds to really just let your camp go because, I mean, you worked. I mean, in his case, he was training for another fight and just took this to kind of really help CFC and a lot of these ticket sales that Steve did sell. Because, I mean, the guy sold a lot of tickets, keeping this fight alive. So credit to Izzy for taking the fight. He didn't have to. But you get 10 or 15 seconds to kind of let that go, and whatever you say and almost whatever you do, you kind of just overlook that a little bit because it's like, man,
Yeah,
think about all the crap they went through. They were beating the crap out of their training partners. They were getting the crap beat out of them by their training partners for weeks. They had to weight cut. They had to sit in a sauna with towels and bath salts and all this. I mean, if you've never been in a camp, I don't think you get a say in what happens the first 10 or 15 seconds after a fight.
yeah. Well said. I like that aspect of what you were saying. That's very good insight because I didn't think about that way. Because yeah, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, well, he's so disrespectful," whatever. Like, hey, man, this guy came in here and did exactly what he wanted to do, and
Well, and that's the thing. He apologized to me.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I
Just
mean?
like,
I
hey,
know he
my bad.
apologized to Steve, and I know he apologized to Steve's team, but even to have that like awareness, like, hey, by the way, you know, I wasn't like trying to be disrespectful. There was just the short build up to the fight, and I'm training for another one, and you know. I put him to sleep, and what he was doing at weigh-ins was kind of annoying, and
Yeah,
just blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, you don't have to apologize for anything, because guess what? At the end of the day, you guys shook hands, and that's it. You know what I mean? You guys already fought, so
yeah,
it's not like we're gonna go through that again. You guys
yeah.
shook hands. We're all good.
Yeah, I love that. Credit to Izzy, man. Just the fact that he's more, yeah, separate yourself from the what happened, and you're representing yourself and your team and your family. It's not something he probably does all the time, but just so caught up in the moment, like that's like ideal to go out there and finish a fight that quick. I mean, to credit to him. So I mean, all to credit to him, and shout out to Steve. Had a great training camp, did what he needed to do, but just fell short this time. But
I think
Izzy,
definitely way outside the weight class. He's a shorter guy, you know, short king here.
yep,
I know a little bit about that. Definitely out of his weight class. I know they weighed the same at a certain point, but at the same time, There's weight classes for a reason. You could
Yeah.
weigh the same as somebody else, but be completely outsized and outmuscled. And I do feel that played a huge factor. Not only not taking anything away from Izzy, because he came out there, did what he was supposed to do. That was his job.
Mhm.
And you're not getting paid by the minute or the second out there. Whether
Yeah.
you do 1 second or the full 15, you get paid the same, unless you catch a bonus. But I think definitely Steve is going to go back to the drawing board, and find a proper weight class for himself. And
Yeah,
I
man.
actually look forward to seeing him fighting in a weight class that better suits him for sure.
Yeah, well said, man. But yeah, shout out to Izzy. Steve goes to 0-4, and Izzy moves up to 1-0 in the pro debut there. And moving up to the co-main with he is a freaking animal. I talk to him on and off all the time, man. He always gives me credit for like, hey man, you're so busy doing it. I was like, man, you're so busy always in. But Carlos versus Giovanni going in there, the co-main, he got everybody going, man. I got to catch him walking out. He was ripping his shirt off. His sandal went out that way. He was beelining to the damn cage. And Giovanni was in there, game, ready to go, man. He already know Giovanni know he had a task in front of him. He has well over 12 fights. So I mean, Giovanni's been in there, but I was telling Carlos, like, that's the first time I got to see him actually fight in person. I was excited, but man, it didn't last long.
Well, okay. So here's a couple things about that fight. One, I'll be honest with you. It was probably about the fourth time that I was actually nervous watching, one of my friends compete. Typically, when my friends compete, I'm super sure or super confident, so long as their opponent isn't a freaking scary opponent. So it doesn't happen very often. You know what I mean? Because a lot of my guys, when they take fights, either I'm sure of the matchup, they're sure of the matchup, whatever. You know what I mean? But this one was a little bit different because that's not just your buddy, that's also your boss. You know what I mean? He's part owner to CFC. He's also the matchmaker to CFC. He's also one of the coaches over at EKA. To do everything he did that night, like, forget about the win, forget about his fight. I mean, he had to put this card together. And to do what he did as well as he did it, when I got to weigh-ins, he was holding the curtain for a fighter that needed to drop their drawers to make weight while he hadn't weighed in yet. So he was still sunken in, not rehydrated yet, et cetera, et cetera. That's the type of shit that this guy was doing at weigh-ins. So for him to be able to go out there and do what he did, happy for him. He got the result that he wanted. It was a really, really, really great fight. But like I said, I don't like being biased, especially when my friends are fighting. But when your boss is fighting, that added a whole new element for me. But all that aside, excellent performance. He woke up the crowd. They were on their feet. It was as loud as it had ever been that night. And it started off with the fake glove touch.
Yes, I saw that. I talked to him about that too. I was kind of like, I mean, once the bell rings, the fight is on. You know what I mean? So I, I don't know how that feels to do it or not do it, and I don't know what the rules are or if it's, it just.
It's not illegal. It's
Yep.
not illegal. And
Yep.
actually, a lot of coaches would tell you, don't
Yeah.
touch gloves. Like, just
Yep.
don't do it.
Yep.
Because of that, you'll have people that'll fake out. So definitely that part of the fight, and that's how you start the fight. It was a little odd, but I really think that Mesa, he definitely had trouble making weight. His camp called Carlos's camp and asked for a catch weight at 150 pounds, which Carlos was ready to accept. I, for one, would be like, no, you're going to cut the extra weight. I'm going to make you cut the extra weight, and then you'll just miss weight. I'm not going to agree to a heavier weight because that's going to give him the advantage, right? Well, it ended up not mattering. And I think Mesa understood that he was on limited to borrowed time in that fight. And I think that's why he started the way that he did, because he started way aggressive. And Carlos really didn't have time to get things going right away. So that's why you saw a lot of that control mount in the beginning of the fight for Mesa. He ended up turning things around and getting the finish the way that he does. And just the energy of that place. Like, even though it was absolutely blistering cold, we were all warm.
Hell yeah, man. That was dope. Yeah, to see how that played out. The glove touch thing is one thing, then the takedown and the back and forth. And I was just like, oh man, I really wanted to see Carlos stand and bang. But man, once he reversed that position, man, just I saw he recently posted on a story the ref cam, and the ref was right there, and you just see Carlos. Like, I was just like, oh man, that, first of all, great angle. Shout out to the ref. But yeah, he got it done. You know what I mean? And not only did he do that, how you were saying, everything leading up to the event, all the stuff in the background, taking care of people, wins the fight, automatically starts shouting out his teammates, talking about the next fight. I love how he's so selfless when it comes to a lot of the stuff, even though that was his time to shine for however much time he wanted to. But right when his time was done, he made sure that he shouted out his teammates in the next fight, which was crazy build up as well, because I know that those guys didn't like each other. But shout out to Carlos getting it done in the co-main. And yeah, ballsy to for Mesa to go do that. And hey, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You know what I mean? You ain't cheating, you ain't trying, kind of thing. All jokes aside, but man, he kind of knew that after he had to try to get that momentum. I feel like, in my opinion, from what I saw, I mean, this is just what I saw. I felt like him just trying to get any advantage he could to try to get ahead was probably.
Well, he's also the shorter guy, and you do not want to stand with Carlos. I mean, I took his seminar and I learned a great deal from it. My whole team was there, and it's stuff that we are actively implementing in our own camps. But that is a guy that you do not want to trade with. That's not a guy you want to mess around with the feet on at all. So I understand why Mesa tried to get it to the grappling as quickly as possible, because the shorter guy, albeit probably also the heavier guy. I know that Carlos put on, a decent amount of weight after rehydrating and stuff, but I feel that Mesa probably was the heavier guy out there, if I'm being honest. So I think he knew that his best chance of winning the fight was early. And one way to kind of get the upper hand, if you will, is to kind of do the fake glove touch and do what he did.
Yeah, man.
Carlos, the gangster that he is, he don't even care about that. You know what I mean? He shook hands with Giovanni after. I mean, they had to hang around in the back while they're issuing checks and stuff to the fighters. So definitely no bad blood. Mesa even reached out to me after the fight, asking what I thought of his fight, blah, blah, blah. But again, it is so. I really don't have words to describe Carlos at all. You know what I mean? How he says, my time does not belong to me. Like, I believe him when he says that, because how can it? With everything that he does for everybody else.
Yeah.
How can he got maybe 15 or 20 minutes that night for himself. And then everything else, like you said, was about promoting his team, was about promoting his brand, was about promoting CFC, the next card. I mean, he went straight back to the back and walked out with his coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he didn't have time to celebrate the fruits of his labor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see that guy fight outside of CFC. Hopefully he doesn't put himself on another card, because, I mean, the added stress would probably kill all of us.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. But I'd like to see him not have to worry about all those things that a promoter has to worry about. Just go out there and actually focus on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So hopefully we get to see that. But either way, wherever he lands, I want to see that man fight again for sure.
Yeah, man. I had talked to him a little bit too. He's like, yeah, that was the last time. It just kind of worked out that way to be on that time. And I was kind of just giving him a hard time. Like, why would you put that knowing that you got so many goddamn things to do? But, shout out to him for getting it done. And, Giovanni, went out there, tried to do his best and didn't get it done in that co-main, but shout out to Carlos. And that sets up how you were saying was perfect. He still had his gloves on, walked out with Jacobo. I got to walk out, see that walk in. And I know Cepeda in his last fight at CFC2 got a TKO win. And from my understanding, I think these guys were supposed to fight before or something fell through. And then now they were going to fight for the title at flyweight. And man, I was excited to see this because after that banger of a fight, after the intermission, everything was just moving up. And here we're at the main fight, right?
Yeah. So these two guys definitely didn't like each other. At weigh-ins, I was trying to get them to face the crowd, but they were facing each other and they were talking shit nonstop. Absolutely nonstop. And this was a really, really, really great fight to make it flyweight, which is my favorite division, and I'm not shy about it. So shout out to my short kings, okay?
Hey.
But this was a really, really, really great fight at 125 pounds. I mean, the title is just the icing on top, right? I mean, it's everything you want in a fight. Two guys that come to bang, two guys that, they got a little bit of heat with each other. And the intensity from both guys in both camps was just insane. You know what I mean? So it was really awesome to see the build up to this fight. And then the fight itself, it played out almost how you would expect it to. Both guys just going right at each other, right out the gate, throwing bombs. These guys were not trying to touch each other. They were trying to hurt each other. They were trying to end each other. Okay? I know that at one point, Cepeda hurt Jacobo on the feet, and Jacobo, he told me, it was a good punch, but I was a little bit more off balance and I was hurt, but it was a good punch. It hurt, you know what I mean? But I wasn't, semi-unconscious or whatever. I just, I was a little off balance and, so that's why I engaged in the clinch. And then he told me, he said, look, I wrapped that head kick around and my foot went around and hit the back of his head, towards the ear right here. So I kind of wrapped around here, this way, here, and like hit right here. And he said, right after that is when I landed the fight-ending combo. So I think I rocked him with that head kick, and then boom, 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 followed him to the floor. I mean, he was out. He was out for a split second, and then one of those punches woke him up. So Jacobo walks away, your flyweight champ. And then immediately after that, because like you said, after intermission, we got 0 breaks. Immediately after that, this guy jumps over to the damn cage, and he's like running around in there, and him and Jacobo are trying to kill each other. I mean, I thought we were going to have another main event.
Yeah. And that was crazy too, because and that set up the next card too. I had talked to Carlos. They already had flyers. They were saying if this, Jacobo wins, we're already setting up this fight with this other guy. And it was a teammate of Cepeda. And but yeah, man, Jacobo went in there, went a little back and forth, tagged him, got tagged, finished the fight, hand raised. Then Varela walks in. I was there with my camera. I put out a video. I was just like, holy shit, this is wild. And it was a good stare down, and I think it would just set up perfect for the next fight, because not only Jacobo won, he immediately put on that face of like, all right, I know you're next. And they were standing an inch away from each other. And I felt the tension.
Well, and I think what set the whole thing off is after Jacobo knocked out Cepeda, he went to him and he said, "You're next, bitch." That's what he told me. He said he was just yelling in the moment, and he saw the guy. He's like, "You're next, bitch," and that dude I believe they have history. I think they might have fought as amateurs.
They did.
If I'm not mistaken, they fought as amateurs, then Jacobo won, correct?
Yes, sir. Okay,
so they have history, but it's different. You're a professional. They're not 3-minute rounds. They're 5-minute rounds. This is for a title. It's not 3 rounds. It's 5 rounds. And you would be silly to think that both guys haven't grown since the last time they fought as amateurs. You know what I mean? And this is just a huge fight for Texas. This is absolutely huge. Not just El Paso. I should say the Southwest at flyweight, which is, like I said, my favorite division. So I'm not upset about this at all. Back-to-back flyweight titles. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. And, Calvin's coming in to defend his as well. at CFC 4. So it's just a flyweight dream for me.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
from my understanding, I think Jacobo's 1 and Varela's 2 as far as like the rankings in New Mexico where they're from or Southwest. So yeah, that fight makes sense. The fact that Jacobo got it done in an impressive way, the promotion wise, I mean fan wise, I mean that you can't write that kind of shit. It works out. Uh Flyers are passed out. Everything's put up on like we already know the date is set July 5th. You know, I mean, this card was amazing. I mean, I've been following combat sports as a fan for a while, and then now being in the area, it's rare that you get half the fights that are finishes. But this was 10 out of 12 head kick. 10 out of 12 fights were finishes.
One, you had everything from flying knees to vicious overhand rights to just really, really, really super tight. I mean, the guillotine, that was sick. I
Yeah,
mean, if Jin doesn't chap, he's Machida. You know
yeah,
what I mean? So, I mean, all the fighters should really, really, really be patting themselves on the back because without them, you don't have promotions like CFC. And I think all the fighters, every single one of them, win or lose, they all performed awesomely. And it really set the tone for what to expect from CFC going forward. This was my first CFC event, and Carlos and the guys, David, they were telling me, look, I get it. You're excited. Just wait. Just wait. You have no idea. You have zero idea. And they were right. It was cold as hell. I had no idea it was going to be cold in Texas. You know what I mean? I brought shorts, my friend. I was going to wear shorts on Sunday. So, needless to say, we put the jeans back on. And I didn't bring a jacket because it's Texas.
yeah,
So, lesson learned. Lesson
yeah,
learned. Okay. But they were also right about the fights.
yeah,
It was
man.
an absolute experience. The production for show 3, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Typically, you're waiting for shows to get in their 20s or 30s to get the type of production that CFC is putting on. And the fights themselves, you can tell you have a matchmaker that is in tune with his fight community because Carlos does a very good job with making fair fights. I
Well
mean,
said.
if I got to go at a ranking system, let's say 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, obviously we're not anywhere near that, or 10 being the best, they get a solid 9.5. And I'm sorry, I got to ding him for the weather.
Yeah, right. You can't be that perfect, man. I gotta nitpick something, but yeah, man. I felt like, and I know the weather was kind of in and out or whatever, but man, it everybody was lining up because I was walking out there as a video guy. I got put on, and man, everybody was packed. Everybody was excited. I felt like they did such a great job. I've gotten to know Carlos for the past 2 years on and off from training and stuff. But yeah, man, I'm happy for them and the success of them. Not only helps them, it helps the sport in general. I keep telling people Southwest Combat Sports does so well as long as other gyms and other promotions are all doing what they got to do within their own lane, and everybody's building off each other. It's a win-win. The fact that you saying that for CFC to have the production level and all that in a short period of time and the caliber of fighters, like I just don't see anything, as far as everything always working out as far as like a location and things like that. I don't see that them having an issue continuing this boat moving forward, right?
No, absolutely. They got a really good venue over at Speaking Rock. Um, and like I said, one thing that they're doing is they're pulling from all over the Southwest.
Yep.
You had at CFC2, you had some J Pages guys out there, and you had Burchak's guys out there. CFC3, you had some Southside Combat Academy out of Flagstaff and J Pages. And it looks like we're going to have some more J Pages. They're also pulling from New Mexico over at Jackson Wink,
Hmm.
and a couple other good gyms out there. So, I mean, they're pulling from California to Texas. You know what I mean? I mean, they have,
And Mexico, you forget too, man.
oh,
We got
that's
Mexico
right.
right there too, man. It's so
That's
crazy.
right. So, I mean, they're really, really, really harvesting, the best from the market that's available to them. And I know their market is only going to grow and the shows are only going to get better from here. So I would advise, okay, first of all, you definitely want to get a pick with me and Jimmy anyway. So I
Hey,
should
let's
be
go.
seeing all of you guys out at CFC 4 on July 5th over at Speaking Rock. Like, come on. It's going to be a great picture. If you're tall, you're just in the middle. I mean, it
Yep,
is what it is.
yeah, it's a win-win. Yeah, man. But it was a pleasure meeting you, man. And I respect what you got going on. And I look forward to getting to know you more in person and, following what you got going on as far as the whole combat scene in Arizona. And you can introduce me to a lot of the gyms and, because I'm trying to cover the sport as much as I can in the Southwest. And I try to do my due diligence to try to like reach out to folks outside of El Paso and Albuquerque now that I'm people are getting to know like that I'm serious trying to cover the sport. So it's cool. And I respect all the guys that, shout out to them. Like, Jimmy, did you get my knockout? Hey, we got to do an interview. So it's cool. I appreciate you guys as much as you guys bust your butt. We're here over here busting our butt to cover you guys and, give you guys a little platform that we can give you guys to showcase your guys' hard work and everything that you guys are pursuing, man. Because as much as you guys bust your butt, we enjoy watching this and just being part of the scene as well.
Well, like I like to tell the young fighters that are on my channel, it's tonight you're on Headkick Audio, next week ESPN. You know what I mean? I am the springboard, just like the CFCs and the Furies and the LFAs are the springboard to the UFC. I'm prepping you so that when Joe Rogan is shoving a microphone in your face after coming off a win in the UFC, you're comfortable with
Yes,
talking.
sir.
You
Well
know what I mean?
said.
That's our jobs. If we're covering the sport in this capacity, it's our job to ask the right questions to get fighters to kind of get out of their shell a little bit, get a little bit comfortable in their own skin, and we are the type of guys that are going to be able to elevate our young fighters to that next level. And I love what I do. It's led to some great opportunities. I was just a short white dude taking a Muay Thai seminar a few weeks ago, and now I'm a CFC commentator. So what does that tell you?
That's awesome, man. I'm happy for you. I feel like that fits when Carlos told me that he was gonna have you guys there all the time. I was like, man, that makes so much sense. I mean, I could tell the passion, the way you carry yourself, the way you talk to everybody. Everybody speaks so highly of you and likes having you around, which is dope too. So, man, like I said, congratulations on that position, and I look forward to seeing you down here more. And maybe we'll see each other at other places. I want to try to make it a point to try to get out there in that area sometime, even if I'm just doing videography stuff or I'm just even watching fights. But
You just
look
give me
forward
a
to,
call. You just give me
yeah,
a call.
yeah, man, we'll figure that out, man. But I love all the things that you said, man, and I do appreciate your time. I know you told me, hey, man, I would love to sit and talk to you, and I like what you got going on, and I appreciate that too, man, because I work hard too. You know what I mean? I don't ever like to toot my horn, but I try to do the best I can and help these guys out with like social media stuff and conversations. I'm like, hey, man, if you're gonna pursue this, you got to kind of get used to talking and maybe out of your shell. I'm not saying you have to be somebody that you're not, but you got the fan base enjoys getting to know the people outside of the cage. So when you're in the cage, they're pulling for you because who you are, and not so much just you as a fighter.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, man. But yeah,
Well,
man.
game recognizes game, real neck recognizes real. I enjoy everything that you do. Anybody that gives a platform to a fighter is my kind of guy already. So I look forward to doing this again. We'll definitely see you at CFC 4, July 5th over at Speaking Rock. Um, and like I said, you just give me a call. I got a bunch of cards going on out here. I'll be competing June 21st
Oh,
for Apex. It's a Muay Thai K1 organization.
let's go.
So I got a bunch of my guys on the card as well. So yeah, you just let me know when you're ready to work. I'll put you to work.
Hey, man, I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much for your time, man. But yeah, guys, CFC 4, July 5th, but CFC 3 was amazing. You guys keep a look at all the different content that's coming out. Make sure you guys follow them. Sport Combat Fighting Championship. I just always say CFC. And shout out to you, Headkick, man. Headkick Audio on Instagram, man. Follow him. And I appreciate your time coming in on my platform. And I like that you said that, hey, man, let's do it on your thing. And I do appreciate that kind of stuff. And if I can return the favor somehow in any ways, man, if you can link me with some of your fighters just so I can start getting to know them, man, I'd appreciate that too. So everybody wins, right?
Yeah, we'll get you out here. Don't worry
All
about it.
right,
We'll get you out
all
here.
right, for sure, man. Thank you guys so much for watching, man. Full breakdown. I don't know where else you can get this, man. Head kick, me, Jimmy Dukes. Thank you guys so much for your time. Make sure you guys follow us, check us out, hit us up, take pictures with us. We short kings, you know what I mean? But I appreciate your time once again, man. Until next time, guys. Peace out, man. Y'all take care.
Thank you, Jimmy.